Welcome back to ACB Wrestling Talk, your main source for wrestling news and wrestling discussions. I'm, of course, your host, Alexis Carrillo, and let's get into some wrestling talk. And last night, it was announced that Le Champion, Chris Jericho, of course, the AEW World Heavyweight Champion, Y2J, will not only be defending his title next week at his self-proclaimed Chris Jericho's Thanksgiving thank you celebration, simply because he didn't feel as appreciated as fans should hold him in, at least in terms of fan celebration, in terms of appreciation for what he's done for AEW so far. But he also had quite an interesting and entertaining segment with Scorpio Sky, who apparently likes big butts. And now, next week, Scorpio Sky, the first man to give Y2J a loss in AEW with that small cradle package last week. Well, now Scorpio Sky gets to challenge for the AEW World Championship on the Thanksgiving Day, one day before actual Thanksgiving edition of Dynamite next week. Now, if you ask me, Y2J all the way. I don't think Scorpio Sky is going to be becoming AEW World Champion anytime soon. He's a tag team wrestler as of right now. That is his current status. There are more superstars held in higher regard with the fans and with AEW as of this moment. But maybe in the future, maybe, this could be a test run for Scorpio Sky. Let's not forget that SCU is normally the team of Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian. That's normally the team, and Scorpio Sky has almost always been the singles competitor. Daniels got injured during the AEW World Tag Team Title Tournament, so Scorpio Sky had to step in, and now he's a tag team champion with Kazarian. But maybe in the future, Scorpio Sky could end up having a run with the AEW World Championship. I'm kind of equating this to something that WWE did all the way back in 2000 with Chris Jericho himself. When they had Y2J beat Triple H all the way back in April of 2000, only to have him be stripped of the title and not stripped of the title because it was never made official that he was WWF champion, but when he did pin Triple H in that middle of that ring, when Earl Hebner counted 1, 2, 3, the crowd went nuts. And maybe that could be the same thing that they could do with Scorpio Sky next week. Maybe not go as far as to have him pin AEW World Champion Y2J once more. But, it's a test run. Let's see how the fans react to having Scorpio Sky as World Champion right now for the future. But again, I digress. Other things that occurred last night on Dynamite. We also had a fantastic opener between Rey Fenix and Nick Jackson, which ended up with Rey Fenix defeating Nick Jackson. Nick going for the handshake. Rey Fenix, did not oblige, did not want to be a part of this gentleman showmanship, I guess. Again, sometimes I forget words. But he simply walked away. And I've got to say, I'm not completely okay with the name Rey Fenix. It sounds like a knockoff of Rey Mysterio or Rey Mysterio's brother. I pretty much just prefer Phoenix, but hey, it's up to them. More on the Bucks, they also interfered, or at least cost Proud and Powerful, of course, Ortiz and Santana, their match against Private Party. So it's safe to say that their rivalry is far from over. Again, I apologize to all you fans who watched my preview and my fallout of Full Gear, where I did not preview or give a post-match opinion on the Bucks versus Proud and Powerful match. Again, I apologize for that, and it seems like in the future, in the very next pay-per-view, they might have the final match in their rivalry, and I can assure you that's going to be high on my priority list. We also got, a few results here and there. Hikaru Shida defeated Britt Baker, which kind of confuses me because, well, confuses me in the fact that how did the rankings change? Because Britt Baker was number 1, Hikaru Shida was number 2, and Shida just lost to, what's her name? Damn it, the AEW Women's World Champion. Rio, yeah, she just lost to Rio at Full Gear, but now number 2 has just beaten number 1. Does that make number 2 number 1? And does that make Shida number 1 contender once more? Or are we going to have that match happen again? Go figure. We also had a hashtag and a vignette for Dark Order. Join the Dark Order, which is pretty damn good marketing. It's pretty smart and witty because we're gearing towards the end of November, the beginning of December, and guess what's coming up this upcoming December and Christmas season? Oh yes, of course it is The Rise of Skywalker, Episode 9 of Star Wars. So, you know, Dark Order, Dark Side, there's kind of a play of words right there that they could use in terms of marketing, and, you know, they could just attract more fans to watch Dynamite, so good on AEW's marketing team. We also got this Dynamite Doesn't Battle Royale, where the final 2, which turned out to be MJF and Adam Hangman Page, those two will face off next week for an AEW Diamond Ring. I wonder who's going to propose to who. But I do know who's going to win that match next week, because they're obviously going to use that ring to, you know, brag, put one more thing over the fans, and again, might be taking a page out of Cody's ROH book when he had that Ring of Honor ring, the actual Ring of Honor that he had opponents and wrestlers and whatever kiss. You know, that might be what's going to happen. So MJF over Hangman next week for the AEW Diamond Engagement ring. We also got the main event. Jon Moxley defeated Darby Allin. Of course, Darby Allin creating headlines last week after accepting Jon Moxley's crazy challenge, and with his entire speech of, I'm going to run you over, I'm going to make sure that you don't see your family as soon as possible. I think that was the main gist of it. He's just going to do what he has to do to get where he wants to get. And Darby Allin is just another victim in the Jon Moxley choo-choo train. Because apparently now they're building up Jon Moxley to be this badass #1 contender to the world title. Because otherwise, why would they have Moxley beat Darby Allin? Why would they have Jon Moxley beat Kenny Omega? And seeing that on the Raw that he currently is on, I honestly do not think there is anyone that could stop him. Maybe the bastard Pac. Or Pac. How do you say that name again? But other than that, you know, it seems like they're putting a lot of their chips behind Jon Moxley, which I'm okay with. But, you know, come on. Come on. And then we're going to have ourselves Kenny Omega versus Pac next week on Dynamite. Of course, their all-out rematch on Dynamite. And we saw Kenny Omega, a vignette last night, working out, holding 200, 300, 400 pounds, I believe. So I think next week, the bastard gets the win over Omega, I believe one more time. Yeah, one more time. Pac gets the win over Omega next week. But that's most of what's been going on with AEW. And they're trying to get over that 1 million viewers viewership, you know, in terms of their ratings. That's something that they haven't done since they made their premiere, and I believe they did that 1 week after the premiere. But ever since, they've been below 1 million. Hopefully, you know, they can reach it. You know, they've been putting out some really good product out there. You know, it's the end of the year, so it's obviously a little slow. They can't build up as much as they should for any kind of events because we're going into the New Year's. But, hold on to AEW because I believe 2020 might be one of their best years, being that it is their second year. Okay, moving on. NXT happened last night. And what did I tell you? How did it end? Of course, with another 3 Brand All Out Brawl. And guess what? Tomorrow night's episode of Friday Night SmackDown, it's gonna end in another 3 Brand All Out Brawl. It's just what it is. It's just a formula, and it's just what WWE Creative has got. Other than that, Becky Lynch opened the show. She called out Shayna Baszler. Of course, the doors were openly open, for both Raw and SmackDown superstars, as Triple H stated at the end of Monday Night Raw. So during the entire show, we had a ton of interference. We had Raw superstars come in, we had SmackDown superstars come in, and then we had the All Out Brawl at the end, which was fully expected. Rhea Ripley comes out. They have a pretty good match before Marina Shafir and Jessamine Duke interfere and cause a no contest. And then we had Lynch and Ripley team up to fight them off because apparently, Ripley is going to be a part of the War Games match against Baszler's team, so they can't be friends. And, that's pretty much it. We also had Riddle, who was supposed to face off against Kona Reeves. Ricochet, Raw superstar, babyface, came out and attacked Kona Reeves. Ended up being Riddle versus Ricochet, which, again, other than the story issues with everything that happened with him being a babyface, I was okay with because, it's Ricochet versus Matt Riddle. And, of course, they were not going to give us a clear, decisive finish to the match, even though Matt Riddle did get the win. Nakamura and Cesaro came out, interfered. SmackDown superstars interfered. Both Riddle and Ricochet fought off the bad SmackDown superstars. And then Finn Balor came out and attacked Matt Riddle, building up to their takeover match at War Games this Saturday night on the WWE Network. So again, another case of WWE building up 2 pay-per-views at the exact same time, which isn't obviously as effective as they could make it. As we saw just a few weeks ago with Hell in a Cell. We also got the Undisputed Era over the Revival, and a match that, frankly, many fans did not want it to end. So, the Revival frankly proved why they should be taken more seriously on the main roster. Unfortunately, Raw and SmackDown get over 2 million viewers. NXT, 700, 800,000 viewers. So the hardcore fan base, they already know what the Revival can do. The mainstream viewers on Raw and SmackDown do not. So, stay in there, Revival. More invasion from the brands. Viking Raiders defeated the Forgotten Sons. The Raw Tag Team Champions returned to NXT. Again, there was something wrong with their characters because and how they're presenting their story, because they should be huge babyfaces. They are not. They are just a simply dominant team that you can't really relate to yet. They're not heels. They're not attacking good guys, but what are they? That's the Viking Raiders, at least in my view. Adam Cole defeated Dijakovic in a ladder match, just like last week's ladder match, for the advantage at War Games. So the Undisputed Era is gonna get the 2-on-1, 3-on-2, 4-on-3 advantage at War Games against the team of Lee, Dijakovic, and Ciampa. And I'm forgetting the 4th man, because I believe that's no longer Riddle, since he has a match scheduled against Finn Balor. If you know the 4th man, again, blanking on it right now, leave it right now in the comments section below. And of course, Adam Cole is going to have a busy weekend, because not only will he be a part of War Games this Saturday night, but he also will have to defend his NXT Championship at Survivor Series. And I believe the very first time the NXT title is going to be defended at a WWE proper pay-per-view, because at War Games this Saturday night, Pete Dunne, Killian Dane, and Damian Priest will define the #1 contender for the NXT title at Survivor Series. Of course, neither of these three men, in my opinion and my view right now, are going to dethrone Adam Cole as NXT champion. That's just where their characters and their story arcs are right now. That's not to say maybe in the future it might happen, but for right now, Adam Cole, he's going to be very busy this weekend, but not to worry, he's going to remain NXT champion. And once more, just like I mentioned at the beginning of this segment, 3 Brand All Out Brawl to end the show, where Seth Rollins versus Tommaso Ciampa stuck out because Seth Rollins got one of the biggest pops he's gotten in the past few weeks, only for it to go away just like that when NXT's daddy, Tommaso Ciampa, came out, and the fans, as they usually do, and as fickle as they are, they turn on Seth Rollins, but nonetheless, it was epic to see Ciampa and Rollins go at it in the middle of that ring. Now, as much as I want to see Tommaso Ciampa on the main roster, and as much as I want to see as a rivalry and as a feud between Ciampa and Rollins in the very near future, should we do that to NXT? Should we take Ciampa, one of its biggest entertainment factors, away from NXT right now or in the very near future? I should give Hunter a call and just see what kind of answer he has. More on the Wednesday Night Wars. Eric Bischoff doesn't equate the current Wednesday Night Wars to the Monday Night Wars, and of course, he's right. He's completely right, because who would? Who would? Okay, the Wednesday Night Wars, currently as they stand, are dividing the hardcore audience, whereas the Monday Night Wars 20 years ago grew not only the hardcore audience, but it grew the mainstream audience. It grew wrestling's popularity. It's night and day. To me, it's like comparing and saying that the Lakers and Celtics rivalry in the NBA, the Monday Night Wars, are comparable to the rivalry that the Cavaliers and the Warriors started to have, but is now non-existent. The Wednesday Night Wars. I'm not saying that NXT versus AEW is non-existent. I'm just saying they haven't gotten to a point where it reaches legendary status, kind of like the Lakers and Celtics. But the former SmackDown, I believe, vice president, I forgot his damn role when he had the role for the entire 2 months he had it on SmackDown. Eric Bischoff spoke at Starrcast, and he said, and I quote, "I don't think that's a fair comparison. I don't mean to sound disrespectful to NXT or AEW, but it's kind of hard to compare them." Again, that's the same thing I said. Eric Bischoff said it first, so give him the props. He also, speaking of props, he gave props for how AEW lights the crowds, and talked about how, that the same people that light the AEW crowd are the same exact people that lit the WCW crowd way back in the day. He thinks it's smart for Cody and AEW to not be reactionary to what NXT does, and that they need to have their own vision and their own product, something that many fans have been stating for ever since AEW was founded earlier this year. And it's safe to say that AEW has followed suit. They've tried to establish themselves in a very AEW, very alternate form of way. They still have the big arenas, they still have the big production and the big presentation and lights and fireworks comparable to WWE, but everything else, it's pretty much night and day when you compare All Elite Wrestling to WWE's current wrestling product. So good on AEW on that. Follow up on the NWA situation from yesterday, from Tuesday, when they had to bring down the Power episode because of some stupid remarks from Jim Cornette, where he stated And again, I really don't want to say this again, but for the fact of the show, you may not have watched yesterday's show. Jim Cornette had this to say about Trevor Murdoch during his match with NWA World Champion Nick Aldis. And I quote, Trevor Murdoch is the only person who can strap a bucket of fried chicken to his back and ride a motor scooter across Ethiopia. Trevor Murdoch can take care of himself. That's what he had to say. NWA came out, released a press statement, and this is pretty much the gist of it. Effective immediately, Jim Cornette has resigned from the NWA. Jim Cornette made remarks during a singles match between Nick Aldis and Trevor Murdoch that were both offensive and do not meet the high standards of decency and good faith of the NWA. To ensure that such an error can never happen again, we've established new procedures of review for all NWA programming going forward. We sincerely regret our failure in this regard. NWA World Champion Nick Aldis also had this to say, and I quote, that Jim Cornette's comments were in poor taste and unnecessary. And they truly were. But when I go back to that press release from the NWA just this part right here. To ensure that such an error can never happen again, we've established new procedures of review for all NWA programming going forward. And I'm going to go back to what I said on yesterday's show. NWA Power isn't live. It's not broadcast live. As far as I can tell, commentary for the show is done live as it's being taped. It's not live as it airs. It's live as it's being taped. So, safe to say that the show, after it's taped, it goes into post-production and it's edited before it goes up on the NWA's YouTube channel. So again, why did that comment make the air when it wasn't a live broadcast? When you knew what's it been, like a month in advance at least, a month, 2 months in advance probably, that he had said that. Now again, I'm just assuming. These are just my assumptions, but again, if my assumptions are correct, why did you allow that to happen? And number 3, why so late in trying to make a quality control on your product? Again, I unveil these questions and present these questions to the NWA officials. And look, I'm not trying to bag on NWA. I'm not trying to put their product down. I love their product. I love their show, Power. I've been watching Power. And I wish them all of the success. And ever since Billy Corgan bought the NWA, I've been a hell of a fan. I've been fully in support of the company. And now I'm thrilled that they got a roster and they got a show and they got a presentation for all these superstars, for all these young guys and all these veterans. But again, they've got to be a little bit more careful, because in today's PC world, in today's PC environment, anyone gets offended about anything. That's just how sensitive today's community has become, unfortunately. So let's move on into our final segment for today's morning. Rhino, Impact star Rhino says that the unions, or creating a wrestling union, would kill the wrestling industry. Impact star Rhino spoke with the UK's The Mirror and had this to say about unions. And I quote, "It wouldn't work. It will kill the industry. When you look at unions for things like movies, it works because movies are planned so far in advance and actors or actresses get the scripts and they have to accept it or turn it down. But wrestling is so fast-paced and changes that it just wouldn't work. It would kill the independent scene and a lot of the startup promotions. Lots of states in America have commissions and stuff that creates more hoops for them to jump through, and we all know that most companies don't make a lot of money as it is. So to have these extra hurdles would kill a lot of companies. A union would not be good for wrestlers, fans, or promoters, and it would kill the industry." That's what Impact star Rhino had to say, and frankly, I might agree with him and I might disagree with him. I might agree with him with the fact that wrestling companies and the wrestling industry as a whole might not want to deal with unions and might never allow a union to happen. That's pretty much set in stone. It's not going to happen. I don't think even AEW is woke enough in today's culture to allow their wrestlers to create a union. But the fact of the matter is, in the past, when you had wrestlers not getting paid for wrestling in TNA TNA, a wrestling union would have been a lot of help for these wrestlers. So I think that you've got to find a happy medium. I don't think that a wrestling union should be created just to break down the entire system. I just think that a wrestling union should be created where wrestlers and the companies can work side by side and come to terms into agreements that benefit both sides. That's what they should go for if they were to ever allow a wrestling union to be created, and if wrestlers would ever band together and create a wrestling union. That's just me. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right. We'll never know, because again, I don't think a wrestling union is going to be coming anytime soon. But what do you think? Do you agree with Impact star Rhino? Again, should stop calling him Impact star. It's just Rhino. Do you agree with Rhino in the fact that unions would kill the wrestling industry, or are you more on my side? Do you think that they should work it out, or maybe you have a different thought? Leave your thoughts, comments, and predictions on the comments section below. And this has been all for today's Thursday, November the 21st edition of ACB Wrestling Talk. I've been Alexis Carrillo. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you dislike this video, hit the dislike button. That's it for me. Till next time.